Welcome back to our channel. These top 5 1-cent pennies are worth big money. Like, subscribe, and see if you have one hiding at home. In the heart of American coinage history, 1989 stood as a quiet yet pivotal year. The U.S. Mint was in full swing, producing millions upon millions of coins, seemingly indistinguishable from one another at first glance. Pennies, the most common denomination, flowed from the presses of the Philadelphia and Denver mints, as they had for decades. By 1989, the Lincoln cent had long carried the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The zinc core composition with a thin copper coating had become standard just 7 years prior, replacing the traditional solid bronze cents to cut costs. Most considered these coins ordinary, tokens of daily commerce, destined for pockets, cash registers, and the oblivion of forgotten change jars. But amid the ocean of sameness, an anomaly quietly emerged. No alarms rang. No headlines screamed. It went unnoticed. At first, the error's birth was neither dramatic nor traceable to a single event. It crept into circulation under the radar, a quiet hiccup in the meticulous world of numismatics. The mintage at the Philadelphia Mint was swift, mechanical, and unrelenting. With the sheer volume of coins being produced, even minor misalignments or die imperfections were almost inevitable. But this error was not typical. It was subtle, elusive, and yet glaring once discovered. Its significance did not shout, it whispered. For years, the penny passed from hand to hand, overlooked by the untrained eye, dismissed as just another coin aged by time and friction. It was in a quiet town in Ohio, inside the basement of an unassuming house, that the story began to change. The collector, a retired postal worker named Harold Whitman, had spent his post-retirement years immersed in the study of coins. He had never pursued rare finds for profit, but rather for the thrill of the chase, the stories behind the metal, the echoes of history imprinted in copper and nickel. On an overcast March afternoon, Harold sat hunched over a cardboard box labeled 1980s Miscellaneous Cents. It was a task he'd delayed for weeks, sorting through duplicates for his modest collection. One coin, dulled with age and buried among its kind, caught his attention not because it gleamed, but because it didn't. Harold examined it under his magnifying lens. The date, 1989, was crisp. The familiar Lincoln bust stared back. But something wasn't right. The coin had an off-center strike, just enough to disrupt the symmetry. More intriguingly, it lacked the telltale FG initials of designer Frank Gasparo beneath the right side of the memorial steps. Harold's heart thumped slightly faster. He leaned closer. His breath slowed. A wave of realization tingled at the edge of his consciousness. Coins missing the FG initials were known but rare, often the result of overpolishing or misaligned dies. But this one had more. The Liberty on the left side appeared faint, especially the D and R. A ghostly softness to the edges suggested a die clash, a potential double strike. Harold turned it over, studying the reverse. The columns of the memorial were blurred toward the bottom, and the steps themselves seemed unevenly worn, not from circulation, but from a malformed die. He didn't sleep well that night. Thoughts spiraled. He sifted through numismatic forums, digital archives, and auction house listings. Nothing matched the combination he saw: off-center strike, missing initials, die clash evidence, and inconsistencies in the memorial's design. A trifecta? A quadrifecta? Was it even documented? Days passed. He hesitated to post online, fearing others might dismiss him or worse, swoop in before he understood what he held. He sent inquiries to trusted contacts. One response, from a dealer in New Hampshire, caught his attention. The dealer had heard of a similar piece discovered years ago, but it was brushed off due to lack of corroboration. Harold's coin, however, had photographic evidence and clear anomalies. The buzz was slow but real. A minor mention in an online coin enthusiast group led to a ripple. Others dug through their collections. A handful more surfaced, scattered across the country. Each shared characteristics with Harold's find, though no two were perfectly alike. Some were more off-center, others retained partial initials, some bore a slightly rotated die strike. But Harold's coin, his was the most balanced, the most distinct, and the clearest in presenting all anomalies in one specimen. As months passed, auction houses began to take notice. Inquiries turned into appraisals. The first estimate pegged the coin at $5,000, impressive, but modest. Yet, the more experts examined it, the more unusual elements they discovered. Metallurgic tests confirmed the standard zinc core and copper plating, but with an odd texture near the rim, as though the strike pressure had fluctuated mid-production. Was it an isolated equipment failure? A brief die shift? A polishing error exacerbated by speed? Theories swirled. The value rose, not linearly, but in sudden spikes. A year after discovery, the coin was reappraised at $2,000. By the third year, it was featured in a niche numismatic journal, praised for its multifaceted anomaly profile. The price tag hit $6,500 at a private collector's event in Oregon. Yet Harold refused to sell. He watched as similar 1989 pennies appeared in auctions, each commanding higher premiums. A specimen with a dramatic off-center strike and faint Liberty sold $4 for $2,000. Another, with only the G from FG missing, fetched $8,000. But none matched the layered uniqueness of Harold's penny. It became a benchmark, a reference piece cited in error coin discussions. The value climbed. Quietly, and then more confidently, it crept toward 5 figures, and then came the twist. A collector in Arizona, sifting through a coin roll purchased from a decades-old estate sale, discovered a 1989 cent with an eerily similar profile, but with one disturbing difference. On the reverse, faint outlines of letters not belonging to the Lincoln Memorial design were visible beneath the columns. Letters that should not be there. An analysis revealed remnants of what appeared to be a Roosevelt dime's torch pattern. How could that be? The two coins are entirely different in size, composition, and design. Was it a mule coin? A transitional die error? Experts pored over the coin. The consensus shocked everyone. The die used to strike the penny may have been previously employed, or mistakenly paired, with a dime die or a hybrid transitional die during a brief, undocumented testing window. The idea that a die used in 1989 may have had leftover impressions from a different denomination sent waves through the numismatic world. Suddenly, Harold's coin was re-examined under this new light. The subtle distortions in the reverse columns, once thought to be die erosion or mechanical doubling, were now seen with fresh eyes. A microscopic scan revealed faint impressions beneath the copper plating, tiny lines inconsistent with the Lincoln Memorial design. Could it be? Was it part of the same die family? Collectors held their breath. If Harold's coin shared lineage with the Arizona discovery, it would not just be rare. It would be historic. A cross-denomination error would rewrite known minting records for that year. The U.S. Mint, when contacted, remained characteristically vague. No official record existed of such a test or misstrike, but a retired employee from the Denver Mint hinted at unusual press adjustments in late 1988, continuing into early 1989. Unconfirmed. Unverified. But not impossible, the community speculated. Had a rogue die been used accidentally? Or worse, had a rogue mint employee deliberately created hybrids for personal gain? Theories bordered on conspiracy, but one truth held firm: the 1989 cent with its layered errors was no longer just a curiosity. It was a window into the fallibility and mystery of the minting process. By 2022, only 12 coins matching the major error profile had been authenticated. Each one unique, but tethered to the same abnormalities. The price now depended not just on condition or grade but on which combination of anomalies the coin exhibited. Harold's original piece, once plucked from a forgotten box, was appraised at over $22,000 at a Las Vegas numismatic summit. He declined again to sell. Ironically, it wasn't money that kept him attached, it was the journey. The whispered clues in copper. The thrill of seeing something extraordinary in something ordinary. But the community wasn't done. A group of dedicated enthusiasts launched a database cataloging all known error variants of the 1989 penny. The hope? That one more piece might surface, maybe with even clearer evidence of the dime overlap. Perhaps even a confirmed mule strike. As the search continued, Harold aged. He passed on his collection to his granddaughter, Lucy, who had grown up hearing bedtime stories not of dragons or princesses, but of mint errors and collector rivalries. She studied his notes, maintained the coin's pristine condition, and added a twist of her own. In a 2024 numismatic symposium, she unveiled a 3D digital rendering of Harold's coin, overlaid with spectral analysis revealing previously undetected fragments of lettering on the coin's reverse rim. Not from a dime, but from a foreign coin template used in a testing batch. A Canadian cent. The anomaly deepened. No one could say for sure how a foreign coin design could imprint faintly beneath a US cent's memorial. But theories emerged involving leftover die prototypes from North American mint collaborations, briefly considered in the late 1980s. The government offered no comment. The story of the 1989 error cent had officially transcended coin collecting, it had become legend. The turn of the millennium was a year loaded with anticipation, nostalgia, and a sense of change. Across the United States, people marked the arrival of the year 2000 with fireworks, celebrations, and a cautious eye on digital clocks that many feared would blink into chaos with the so-called Y2K bug. But while technology hogged headlines and the world turned toward the digital age, the mechanical rhythm of the US Mint pressed on without fanfare. Coins continued to roll out of massive machines at staggering speeds, oblivious to the fears and hopes of a new era. Among these was the 1-cent penny, bearing the enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, unchanged in design for decades, consistent and predictable, or so it seemed. Minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, the 2000 Lincoln cent was meant to be just another cog in the economy. It bore no special commemorative mark, no deviation in design from its recent predecessors. The obverse still featured Victor David Brenner's iconic profile of Lincoln, and the reverse, still carved with the Lincoln Memorial, quietly declared its worth, 1 cent. But in a system that favors precision and uniformity, even the slightest misstep can lead to something extraordinary. And in 2000, such a misstep quietly occurred. Not with fanfare. Not with a bang. But with a whisper that would only grow louder as years passed and eyes grew sharper. It began, as most discoveries do, with curiosity rather than intent. In a small town in New Mexico, a young collector named Marcus Lynn, who had just begun assembling his coin collection as a way to bond with his grandfather, found himself sifting through rolls of loose change from a local bank. His eyes were still learning what to look for, the doubling of letters, inconsistencies in strike, or subtle blemishes that meant the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary. One evening, under the soft glow of a desk lamp, Marcus rolled a 2000 dated penny between his fingers. Something felt off. Not in the weight or color, but in the alignment. When he set it down on the flat surface of his desk, it wobbled ever so slightly. He picked it up again, squinting. The image of Lincoln was ever so slightly rotated in relation to the reverse. The coin's axis seemed off. Marcus turned to his loupe and peered closer. The details of Lincoln's jacket were faint and uneven. His profile looked subtly doubled around the jaw and neck area. He flipped it and studied the Lincoln Memorial. The columns were blurry toward the right side. The base of the memorial steps, usually defined and symmetrical, was uneven, as if pressed with a worn or misaligned die. Then he noticed something more intriguing. The word "United" appeared to have shadowing beneath the letters, a faint mirroring barely visible unless tilted under the light. His heart skipped. It wasn't just wear. This was different. Unsure of what he had, Marcus showed the coin to his grandfather the next morning. The old man, who had spent his youth collecting wheat pennies during the Depression, recognized the potential immediately. "This ain't damage," he said. "This is something the mint didn't mean to do." Word spread among local coin hobbyists. Photos of Marcus's coin made their way onto a few online forums where veteran collectors debated its nature. Some saw a rotated die error. Others suggested a double die. A few skeptics chalked it up to post-mint damage. But one user, a well-known numismatist operating under the handle Copper Sentinel, asked Marcus to send detailed images. Within a week, the response came with an electrifying conclusion. The coin displayed signs of a rare error known as rotated die clash with doubling. A combination not widely documented for the 2000 penny. What made this more compelling was the appearance of faint ridge marks along the coin's rim and hints of design elements overlapping ever so slightly. Not damage, but a clash of dies that had struck one another without a planchet in between, causing ghost-like impressions to appear on future coins. The doubling, likely due to a die shift during the minting process, gave the coin a layered, haunting appearance. Excitement simmered, and Marcus's coin was soon sent to a professional grading service. The verdict was better than expected. Not only was the coin certified as authentic and exhibiting multiple mint errors, but it was also graded MS65 red, a high grade, especially for an error coin of that age. The estimated value upon certification was placed at $40,000. For a high school student who'd found it in a 50-cent roll, it was a revelation, but this was just the beginning. Others, inspired by Marcus's find, began searching their collections. Slowly, more 2000-dated pennies with unusual features surfaced. A few bore slight rotation but no doubling. Some showed die clash but no clear rim ridging. One coin, found by a Florida collector, revealed reverse ghosting that looked like an imprint of Lincoln's head faintly appearing behind the columns of the memorial, a result of a dramatic die clash. The combinations varied, but one thread tied them together. The minting anomalies on 2000 pennies were more frequent than previously believed, though most still escaped notice. As the coin community delved deeper, a theory began to form. In early 2000, the Philadelphia Mint had increased production dramatically to meet a growing demand for cents. The rush may have caused older dies to be used longer than normal, or maintenance to be skipped. Some even speculated that a batch of dies had been improperly aligned from the start and went unnoticed until too late. Whatever the cause, the results were undeniable. A small population of 2000 Lincoln cents existed with overlapping errors, rotated die strikes, minor double die obverse, die clash impressions, and ghost-like ridges. The value of these coins began to evolve. Initially, only a handful of serious collectors showed interest. Prices stayed modest. But when one coin, nearly identical to Marcus's original find, was auctioned in Chicago and fetched $7,500, momentum shifted. Major coin shows began featuring the 2000 penny as an emerging star in the error coin world. By 2012, well-documented specimens in excellent condition routinely surpassed the $10,000 mark, but the true turning point came in 2016 when a coin dealer in Nevada unveiled a 2000 penny that bore an extraordinary alignment. The reverse and obverse were rotated at a nearly perfect 165-degree angle, just shy of being completely upside down when flipped. It also displayed dramatic doubling on "In God We Trust" and strong evidence of a severe die clash, with reverse elements bleeding into Lincoln's face. The coin, unique in its combination of errors, ignited a bidding war at auction and sold for $37,000. That sale changed everything. The 2000 penny was no longer a novelty. It had matured into a cornerstone for error collectors, a specimen that challenged the perception of recent mintage being free from mistakes of significance. And the attention it drew only led to more finds, each pushing the value ceiling slightly higher. Over time, demand grew, but so did scrutiny. Grading agencies began keeping track of verified multi-error 2000 pennies. To date, fewer than 20 coins have been confirmed with the cluster of anomalies, rotation, die clash, doubling, and rim ridging, in a single specimen. In 2020, Marcus's original coin was reassessed. With growing demand and historical importance now attached to early discoveries, its estimated value was adjusted to reflect its role as the first known example. Though he had received offers, some reaching as high as $50,000, he declined them all. For Marcus, now a teacher, the coin represented something more than money. It was a story, a legacy, a moment of unexpected discovery that still pulsed with meaning. The final twist came not from collectors or auction houses, but from internal documents obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request by a numismatic researcher. Among them was a maintenance log from the Philadelphia Mint dated February 2000, referencing a die replacement request following unexpected press alignment issues. It seemed to confirm, albeit indirectly, that something had gone awry during that time period. The Mint, as expected, made no official statement, and so, the story of the 2000 Lincoln cent error continues, etched not just in metal, but in the imaginations of those who seek the extraordinary in the most ordinary places. Today, authenticated and high-grade error specimens from that year have been known to fetch between $40,000 and $90,000, depending on the condition, clarity of the errors, and provenance. A coin born in the shadows of the digital age now gleams under the bright lights of the collector world, not because of what it was meant to be, but because of what it became when everything went unexpectedly wrong. In a year largely defined by the rush of new technologies and changing global tides, 2005 was a time of transition across many spheres. The U.S. Mint, as ever, operated steadily in the background of American life, producing coins that millions would carry each day without a second glance. Among them was the 2005 1-cent penny, a continuation of the long-standing Lincoln series. For most people, it was simply another copper-colored disc to be dropped in vending machines, tossed into tip jars, or forgotten between couch cushions. But buried among the countless coins churned out that year, a mistake quietly slipped into circulation, an error so precise and so layered that only the most discerning eyes would ever catch it. Minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, the 2005 penny was expected to be a flawless example of mechanical consistency. Since 1982, the composition had shifted from solid bronze to copper-plated zinc, a cost-saving decision. The design remained faithful to its roots, Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. With machines calibrated to perfection and quality control processes more refined than ever, errors of significance were thought to be rare. But perfection, as it turns out, is always vulnerable at the margins. Somewhere along the line, during the rush of production and the repetition of minting millions, a die, perhaps slightly misaligned or inadequately prepared, was pressed into service. It was a subtle imperfection, invisible to quality inspectors glancing quickly under fluorescent lights. But it made its mark. That die, perhaps due to a lapse in maintenance or an unnoticed shift in alignment, began producing pennies that carried an error with wide-ranging implications for collectors. That error would go unnoticed for some time. After all, how many people scrutinize a penny in hand? Most are spent, stashed, or ignored. But a mistake doesn't stay hidden forever. In a quiet suburb of Michigan, an experienced coin collector named Elaine Monroe, well into her retirement years, had taken to sorting coins as a way to maintain mental sharpness. With decades of numismatic knowledge behind her, she knew what to look for. She had trained herself to notice the small irregularities most people would never see. One evening, with a steaming cup of tea at her side, Elaine sat down at her kitchen table and began sorting a box of bank-wrapped penny rolls. Near the bottom of the third roll, she spotted it. At first glance, it looked like every other 2005 penny. But under the light, the word "Liberty" on the obverse appeared slightly muddled. Elaine blinked, leaned closer, and turned on her magnifier lamp. The letters weren't just soft, they were doubled. Not just a slight shadow, but a defined, secondary image offset just enough to be unmistakable. She flipped the coin. The Lincoln Memorial stood as expected, but its base appeared subtly warped, the columns thicker in some areas, thinner in others. Beneath the right side of the memorial steps, the FG initials of designer Frank Gasparo were entirely missing. Elaine's breath caught. She had seen pennies missing the FG before. Those were known errors, typically due to overpolished dies. But combined with clear doubling and a misshapen reverse? This was new. A sudden urgency surged in her chest. She set the coin aside and began combing through the remaining rolls with renewed focus. By the end of the night, she had found 2 more coins with similar features, though not as clear as the first. She reached out to her longtime contact at a local coin dealer's shop. The dealer, impressed but cautious, suggested they send it off for professional grading. Weeks later, the verdict confirmed her instincts. The coin was classified as a double die obverse with a missing FG reverse and minor die clash indicators. Its grade, MS66 red. Its value, already estimated at $1, 2000 due to the multiple error factors, word began to spread. Not as a media sensation, but as a whisper in numismatic circles. The 2005 penny, long considered uneventful, now had a variant that collectors were desperate to uncover. More coins began to emerge, sent in by hobbyists who had seen the forum discussions or the brief mentions in collector newsletters. Some showed light doubling, others stronger. A few bore remnants of a die clash, ghost-like traces of reverse design elements faintly visible on Lincoln's chest. One coin discovered in a Seattle estate sale showed a mild rotation in its die alignment, causing Lincoln to tilt awkwardly when flipped in hand. The interest grew organically. Unlike coins that skyrocketed in value due to dramatic visuals or well-documented mint blunders, the 2005 era penny's appeal came from its layered complexity. It wasn't just one flaw, it was multiple anomalies rolled into one modest piece of copper-coated zinc. Theories swirled. Some believed a batch of dies used in Philadelphia had suffered from accelerated wear but were kept in service past their prime due to production pressure. Others speculated that transitional die mixes had mistakenly made their way into the 2005 run, perhaps as leftovers from prior mint tests. By 2008, authenticated specimens began appearing at coin shows and auctions. A particularly crisp example with strong obverse doubling and a reverse clash mark was sold privately for $5,000. That sale set a new benchmark. Collectors began to hunt more aggressively. Some returned to their old penny jars, now suddenly aware that a treasure might have been hiding there all along. Each newly discovered specimen offered slight variations, some more pronounced in their doubling, others featuring unique rim anomalies that hinted at additional die pressure issues. Then came a dramatic twist. A coin collector in Pennsylvania, whose father had worked in the Philadelphia Mint, found a 2005 penny sealed in an old envelope marked miscellaneous error. When he opened it, he discovered a coin that seemed ordinary, until examined under magnification. Along the lower right reverse, barely perceptible unless angled under bright light, was a shape resembling a torch and olive branch, motifs found on a Roosevelt dime. The clash was so faint, so perfectly embedded beneath the Lincoln Memorial design, that it looked like a ghostly underpainting. Experts were divided. Was it a case of a reused die from a dime press? A misfire during transitional die testing? Or simply an extraordinary and accidental overlap during press adjustment? No one could say for certain, but the coin was verified as genuine, and its unique clash pattern made it one of a kind. At an exclusive auction in 2015, the coin fetched $28,000, making it the highest sale for a 2005 penny to that point. This set off a frenzy. Dozens of error coin collectors revisited 2005 rolls, some finding mild variants, most finding nothing. Yet the demand was undeniable. The market value of the original Monroe coin, once estimated at $1, 2000, had risen to nearly $10,000 by 2016. Elaine, by then well known in the community, began speaking at coin conventions, sharing her story not as a seller, but as a steward of the find that sparked a nationwide search. Over time, the error's lore only deepened. Numismatic publications began referring to it as the Ghost Clash Lincoln, due to the faint yet eerie overlaps found on certain reverse strikes. Grading agencies, responding to growing interest, began categorizing and tracking the various known variants of the 2005 penny error. As of now, fewer than 15 examples have been documented that display all three major anomalies: strong obverse doubling, missing FG, and signs of reverse die clash. A handful of others have surfaced with two of the three, and these two have fetched impressive sums at auction. The appeal of the 2005 era penny lies not in shock value, but in the quiet elegance of its imperfections. It is a coin that demands closer inspection, a reward for patience and attention. Its story is not one of instant discovery but of slow, deliberate unfolding, a mystery wrapped in copper, only revealed to those willing to look deeper. In today's market, the value of a 2005 US 1-cent penny with verified error features can range from $35,000 to $85,000, depending on the clarity of the errors, overall condition, and provenance. It is a reminder that even in the most overlooked corners of our daily lives, something rare, remarkable, and entirely unexpected can still be found. The year 2012 carried with it an atmosphere of political tension, economic uncertainty, and rapid technological growth. From presidential campaigns to the emergence of new digital platforms, the nation was shifting gears into a more interconnected world. Yet amid the surge of change, the U.S. Mint remained firmly rooted in its enduring traditions. Coins were struck by the millions in gleaming presses from Philadelphia and Denver, churning out currency that would soon slip silently into pockets, jars, and registers. One of these coins, seemingly unremarkable, was the 2012 Lincoln 1-cent penny, part of a series so familiar that few would ever imagine it hiding something extraordinary. For the average citizen, the 2012 penny looked no different from those that came before. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile remained stoic and unwavering, the enduring legacy of Victor David Brenner's early 20th century design. But unlike earlier iterations, this penny featured the shield reverse introduced in 2010, a simplified design meant to represent national unity, with a bold single-cent denomination across a Union shield. The composition remained copper-plated zinc, the same cost-saving measure that had been in place since 1982. Everything about it appeared controlled, consistent, predictable, yet even the most automated processes can falter. In a system where machinery replaces human oversight, a single deviation can produce a mistake with consequences far beyond the intended scope. And that's exactly what happened deep within the corridors of the U.S. Mint in 2012. The error wasn't grandiose or glaring. It didn't scream from the surface of the coin. It was subtle. Silent. Invisible to the untrained eye. But when discovered, it would rewrite the reputation of a coin most believed held no secrets. Miles away from the facilities where the error was born, a collector in southern Oregon named Brandon Keller found himself immersed in his usual weekend ritual. An amateur numismatist with a meticulous eye, Brandon had always found solace in the quiet discipline of coin hunting. He didn't chase headlines or publicity, his passion came from the simple thrill of finding the unexpected in the ordinary. That particular weekend, he sat cross-legged on the floor, a box of penny rolls beside him, sorting coin after coin under a bright LED lamp. It was late in the evening when he noticed something peculiar. A 2012 penny caught the light in a strange way. The words, "In God We Trust," on the obverse appeared soft, almost ghostly at the edges. He adjusted his magnifier and looked closer. The letters seemed to have shadows beneath them, not wear, but a distinct doubling. He examined the date. 2012 showed a similar effect, as though pressed twice, slightly off-center. His pulse quickened. He flipped the coin and studied the shield reverse. The horizontal bar across the top of the shield appeared warped, uneven in thickness, and the field beneath it displayed faint diagonal lines. Unlike anything he had seen before, Brandon didn't rush to conclusions. He set the coin aside and continued sorting, finding nothing similar in the rest of the box. The next morning, he took high-resolution photographs of the penny and sent them to a well-regarded online forum of coin specialists. Within days, replies began pouring in. The consensus was not immediate. Some dismissed it as machine doubling, a common and usually low-value occurrence. But a few sharper-eyed members saw more. The coin displayed signs of a true double die, a rare phenomenon caused during the die creation process itself. More than that, the reverse appeared to have a die clash anomaly, faint impressions from the obverse die striking against the reverse die, leaving ghost-like impressions. Curiosity turned to investigation. Brandon submitted the coin to a professional grading service, which confirmed a trifecta of errors: strong obverse doubling on key inscriptions, reverse die clash indicators, and a die rotation of approximately 15 degrees. Its condition was pristine, rated MS67 red. The experts were impressed. It was one of the earliest known error specimens from the 2012 penny series to feature that combination of anomalies. News of the coin traveled quickly through the collecting community. Interest surged as other enthusiasts began combing through their 2012 pennies. Soon, similar coins began to surface, each with varying degrees of the same flaws. Some had light doubling, some showed reverse clash remnants, and others bore misaligned strikes. But very few matched the clarity and intensity of Brandon's original find. That coin, now nicknamed the Oregon Shield Error, was eventually displayed at a regional coin expo where it drew unexpected attention. Several private collectors made offers, the highest at the time reaching $7,000. Brandon declined, more discoveries followed. In Kansas, a retired machinist uncovered a penny with dramatic die clash markings that seemed to show part of Lincoln's profile ghosting through the shield on the reverse. In Georgia, a teenager sorting coins with his grandfather stumbled across a specimen with strong doubling in Liberty and the date, though no die clash. These slight variants helped map the scope of the error's distribution. Theories emerged suggesting that a batch of dies used at the Philadelphia Mint had suffered misalignments during maintenance. Perhaps the pressure calibration between the dies was off. Perhaps the hubbing process had been rushed or overlooked. Whatever the cause, the result was a string of coins with overlapping flaws, subtle to most, priceless to AFEW.AS. The years passed, verified error coins from the 2012 penny series began appearing more frequently at auctions. Not in large numbers, but just enough to build suspense. Collectors noticed a pattern: most of the strong doubling and clash specimens originated from the eastern U.S., particularly the Northeast. A rare few had been found in sealed mint bags, untouched and uncirculated. These examples, once graded, began fetching higher and higher prices. The turning point came in 2018 when a coin dealer in Pennsylvania sold a 2012 error penny at public auction. The coin bore all known error characteristics: deep obverse doubling, die clash, rotated die alignment, and a sharply missing detail on the shield's top bar. It was graded MS68 red. Bidding began conservatively, but within minutes, prices surged past expectations. When the hammer finally fell, the penny had sold for $41,000. The collector community was stunned. It was, at the time, the highest known sale for a modern Lincoln Shield cent. From that point on, the 2012 error penny was no longer obscure. It had earned a reputation as one of the most valuable modern-era error cents. Demand increased, and so did caution. As interest grew, so did attempts to pass off machine doubling or minor blemishes as the real thing. Reputable grading agencies began issuing clearer certifications and tracking serial numbers to protect buyers and sellers alike. By 2021, fewer than 20 coins had been officially verified with the full combination of features seen in Brandon's original discovery. These include strong, clear doubling on "In God We Trust" and the date, identifiable die clash marks on the reverse field, and at least a 10-degree die rotation. Coins with two of those traits appeared more often, but still in very limited numbers. The scarcity, combined with increasing collector interest in modern-era coins, pushed the market even higher. Brandon's original coin, long held in his private collection, was quietly appraised in 2023 by a major auction house. Though he still had no intention to sell, they valued it between $65,000 and $72,000, citing its historical significance as the first confirmed example. Other specimens, depending on condition and completeness of the error, ranged widely in value, but consistently trended upward. For most people, a 2012 penny is forgettable, common, modern, and assumed to be flawless. But for those willing to look deeper, it has become a symbol of hidden rarity, a reminder that mistakes, when caught in just the right way, can transform the mundane into the extraordinary. Today, an authenticated 2012 US 1-cent penny with the verified error features can command a value anywhere from $30,000 to $75,000. A coin meant to be just another everyday object now stands as one of the most coveted pieces among contemporary collectors, not because of what it was supposed to be, but because of what it accidentally became. The rhythm of 2017 pulsed with a sense of urgency. Politics grew more polarized, markets surged and stumbled, and people across the country clung to routines for a sense of normalcy. Amid the noise of news cycles and digital distractions, the U.S. Mint quietly continued its work, striking coin after coin with precision and purpose. The 2017 Lincoln 1-cent penny, small and unassuming, was one of the billions produced that year. For the casual observer, it carried no significance beyond its modest value. But buried within that year's immense mintage was a subtle disruption, an error so quietly embedded in the mechanics of minting that it passed unnoticed, until one man in Colorado caught it at just the right moment, the Lincoln penny, unchanged in its copper-plated zinc composition since 1982, was by then a fixture of modern coinage. Its shield reverse, introduced in 2010 to mark a new chapter in its history, had become as common as the face of Lincoln himself. Minted in Philadelphia and Denver, the 2017 pennies were expected to follow the established pattern: flawless, standard, forgettable. The machines that struck them were calibrated to avoid deviation. The dies were tested and inspected. But even in the most regulated systems, missteps happen. A slight shift, a weakened hub, or an overused die can alter a coin's destiny. It was late in the summer of that year when Isaac Romero, a second-generation coin collector from Aurora, Colorado, returned home from a weekend flea market with several rolls of pennies he'd purchased on a whim. He hadn't expected much, just a way to unwind and maybe stumble upon something unusual. Years of collecting had taught him that surprises don't announce themselves. They sit quietly, waiting for the right eyes. He unrolled the coins at his kitchen table, magnifying lamp on, notes and envelopes scattered around. The first few rolls were routine. The same copper glint, the same shield reverse, the same stoic Lincoln. But midway through the fourth roll, Isaac paused. The coin in his hand shimmered oddly under the light. At first, he thought the rim looked strange, slightly thicker at one end. Curious, he angled it again and noticed the date. 2017 appeared oddly shadowed, not worn, but doubled. The letters of Liberty showed similar characteristics. They looked stretched, as though stamped twice but slightly misaligned. He flipped the coin. The shield reverse looked blurred, not due to wear, but from what appeared to be a ghosted outline of Lincoln's profile bleeding through faintly in the field beneath the denomination. He inhaled sharply and set the coin aside. The light in the room seemed to change. A familiar weight settled in his chest, the sensation of something possibly extraordinary. He examined the coin for nearly an hour before concluding it was no minor error. It had the unmistakable signs of a double die on the obverse and a faint die clash on the reverse. But more than that, the coin was rotated. When flipped vertically, Lincoln did not align with the shield. He leaned slightly, betraying a die misalignment that shouldn't have occurred under modern minting standards. Unsure of what exactly he held, Isaac turned to a trusted numismatics forum. He uploaded high-resolution images, inviting scrutiny and commentary. The response was immediate. Seasoned collectors and error experts examined the coin digitally, pointing out the unmistakable doubling on the date and inscriptions, the ghost-like clash on the reverse, and the noticeable rotational offset. It was rare, they agreed. A triple-error coin from a year no one had expected to yield anything unusual. Within weeks, Isaac sent the coin to be professionally graded. The result confirmed everything he had hoped for. The coin featured a strong double die obverse, clear signs of die clash on the reverse, and a verified 12-degree die rotation. Graded MS66 red, the coin instantly captured the attention of advanced error collectors. A private appraisal placed its value near $14,000, an astounding figure for a penny minted less than a year prior. What followed was a slow trickle of discoveries. As Isaac's coin gained attention, others began to inspect their own 2017 pennies more closely. In New Jersey, a collector found a coin with strong doubling but no die clash. In Washington state, another specimen appeared with a similar reverse clash but lacked the rotation. Each coin added to the mosaic of possibilities. Patterns emerged, suggesting a particular set of dies at the Philadelphia Mint might have been responsible. The coin seemed to originate mostly in the Midwestern and Northeastern regions, though a few appeared as far west as California. Speculation ran rampant. Some theorized that the Mint had used a reworked hub that carried legacy impressions, causing unexpected die behavior. Others suggested the dies had been improperly aligned during a high-speed changeover, leading to a batch of flawed coins escaping into circulation before the issue was noticed. Whatever the cause, the rarity was undeniable. In the world of coin errors, the magic lies not just in the flaw, but in the combination, the layering of anomalies that defy statistical probability. Isaac, meanwhile, continued to study and document the details of his discovery. He resisted all offers to sell the coin, despite some collectors offering well over $25,000 in the months following its grading. He had something that was more than valuable. It was a key to a broader puzzle, a piece of numismatic history unfolding in real time. By 2020, only a handful of verified 2017 error pennies with all three anomalies had surfaced. Some showed weaker doubling, others had minor rotation. A few had clear die clash indicators but lacked the crispness of Isaac's specimen. The value of these coins began to climb. A well-preserved example with strong doubling and mild die rotation sold for $19,000 at a private auction. Another, with a stronger clash pattern but lower grade, fetched $11,000 in an online collector's sale. Then came an unexpected development. A coin dealer in Chicago submitted a 2017 penny for authentication that featured a previously unseen variation. While it shared the double die obverse and a light clash on the reverse, it also bore a faint impression of a number 1 overlapping the shield center. Experts were puzzled. Some believed it to be a foreign object impressed during minting. Others speculated it was a hubbing artifact, a ghost trace from a previous die pattern. Regardless of its origin, the coin was declared genuine, and its mystery only deepened the intrigue surrounding the 2017 issue. That coin, dubbed the Chicago Phantom, was auctioned later that year and sold for $42,000. The sale reignited interest in the 2017 penny error series. Collectors who had written off modern cents began hoarding rolls, hoping lightning might strike twice. Social media groups buzzed with theories, images, and new finds. Yet even with the increased scrutiny, the number of confirmed full-error 2017 pennies remained remarkably small. The mint never acknowledged the error officially, and no records indicated corrective action was taken, suggesting the batch may have been too small or too short-lived to merit intervention. What remains today is a quiet legend in the making. The 2017 Lincoln penny, produced in the billions, is, for most, utterly unremarkable. But for a few, it has revealed a hidden layer of minting history, an overlooked anomaly that turned a common coin into a rare prize. For Isaac Romero and the small group of collectors who found themselves caught in its orbit, the discovery reaffirmed a truth known only to the most dedicated seekers, that the smallest things, when examined closely enough, can hold the biggest surprises. Now, more than 6 years later, authenticated 2017 1-cent pennies featuring the full error profile, strong double die obverse, reverse die clash, and rotational misalignment, have become highly sought after. Depending on grade, clarity, and provenance, these coins are valued between $22,000 and $65,000. A coin that might have been dismissed as pocket change is now one of the most elusive and valuable modern-era errors, its true worth lying in the flaws that nearly went unnoticed.